committee meeting to order. And for pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a motion for the agenda. You need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Agenda adopted. Public comments, 3 minutes per person, please. Hey, you have no public. Anybody on? Okay, first on the agenda is Cynthia Mujinski, Alpena County Prosecuting Attorney.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I understand that all of you were very much aware that Ms. Reed from my office was going to be terminating her employment with our office, as there was a lot of discussion of that situation for the county as a whole at the last board meeting. So I do very much appreciate that conversation that was had. Today, I'm just asking that we are able to continue that conversation as it pertains specifically to that assistant prosecutor position. We, as you know, did attempt to hire a fourth prosecutor in the prosecutor's office all of last year, and we're not able to secure any applicants. Almost at all. I think there were maybe 2 applicants that I can even, I want to say just 1 applicant that didn't really put the bill, but I'll say 2 just in case I'm missing 1 applicant. So that is the reason for both of my requests today. The first specifically is to fill that position once it becomes available. Ms. Reed intends to stick with us throughout this month of September and become with us formally as a full-time employee as of September, I think October 1st, however that falls with the week. So I would ask that Personnel Committee allow me to fill that position if and when I do find a candidate that fits the bill, so to speak, for that position.
I'll make the motion just to fill it. I have discussion.
I can support that.
Okay, we have motion and support. Discussion.
That's just filling the one spot. You're not adding nobody else. You just,
Right.
yeah.
Right, she'll be leaving. There is my second, agenda item, of course, in hopes that we can do some things until the position is filled. But yes, just filling the one position that is currently budgeted for.
Okay.
So that would continue to be the 3 prosecutors in the office, not anything in it.
John, do you have anything?
No.
You said you do have the money to fill that position?
Well, if she leaves, then the money will be available.
Left over from.
Yes.
Well, it's currently budgeted.
It's good.
Right. How many people do you have in your office right now?
I have myself, my chief assistant prosecutor, and then the assistant prosecutor. I have 3 support staff and 1.5 victim rights individuals in that department. And then also under my umbrella is the paternity and support investigator, which is 1 full-time position.
What was the last one?
The paternity and support investigator, Stacy Stewart,
Paternity?
and support, yes.
How long has she been there?
That is a statutory position, so it's existed far longer than I've been here. It was previously filled by Nancy Scheiba, and before her, Nancy Ganey for quite a while. That was before I got there.
Okay, well, any other discussion?
I'm set.
A motion and support, need a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes. We had one more
Yes, so as I stated, and I also provided a lot of documentation from news articles throughout the state that there is a prosecutor shortage in the state of Michigan specifically. And if you look at the Prosecuting Attorneys Association website for job postings across the state, where there's usually about 10 to 12 on any given year, there's upwards of 40 or 50 vacancies that they're advertising for on that particular site. Both prosecutors and some minimal support staff. And when Miss Reed did tender her intent to resign from her post as it is right now, I was able to speak with her, and she was willing to, if it was approved, to work part-time for the office until I could get that position fully filled. But we understand that could be quite some time. Her and I negotiated the terms of the contract, which were also attached as a result of that particular contract. It does not exceed any of the funding that's currently budgeted for that particular slot. And would actually, I believe that math came out, it would save the county about $600 a month in salary and fringe benefits. As of course, as a contract position, she would not receive such benefits or coverage or everything that goes along with the full-time employment. And her spot is very pivotal. It is a big loss to lose her specifically, as in her role, she handles all of our sexual assault and domestic violence cases. So they're very intense cases. She has several that are scheduled for trial at this moment. And we very much look forward to hoping that she will be able to enter into this contract with the county and then finish off those particular trials and things that she has already invested a lot of time and commitment and relationships with the victims in those particular cases, and carry those through to the end of their time in the court system. I do know that if anybody is, willing to work up here or can fill the full-time position, they will need, a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, to wrap up their particular practice that they're doing. So I do feel as though there'll be plenty of time for us to be able to terminate this particular contract with Miss Reed prior to enlisting the full-time help of anyone else. I don't believe there'll be any type of overlap. So there wouldn't be any need to ask for any additional funding to allow her to continue to help the office in this way.
So Cynthia, when she goes off October 1st and she goes on the part-time minus the benefits and everything else, this part.
Contract
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Make that motion.
We have a motion, we have support.
So I'll support this for for further discussion. I guess my concern with this is it's a part-time position, but we're going to pay the same pay that we pay her as a full-time employee minus benefits.
Minus benefits, and it still comes out to the county gains $600 a month.
Because I just did the calculation of 663. And that equates to $1,243 a month, or I'm sorry, a week. So if you're gonna pay her twice, basically 2,500, how many hours is she expected to do at part-time?
Well, I would expect at least 20 hours a week, as her caseload, fluctuates, and whether or not she has a trial that week or maybe just some preliminary examinations versus, meeting with victims. It will vary. So that's why I put the cap on it. So it's not an hour per hour fee or rate. Putting the cap on it would ensure that we would never pay her more than the $2,500, I think it was.
I guess, again, my concern, my issue with this is it's a part-time, we're gonna pay her a part-time employee, a full-time, in a sense, full-time amount. Because it works out minus the benefits. I get it, she's a contract employee. And we wouldn't be paying those benefits. So I guess that's where I'm having a little bit of an issue to pay her full-time, the $2,500 a pay period, which works out to be the 64,663 a year for a salary for a part-time position.
I'm sorry, one more time on that, Matt?
So 663.
What her salary is now?
Yep. Well, that's what you put in her base level rate, I guess. Well, maybe that's, I don't know if that's her rate. So
Well, the base level rate, for, I think the 64,663 is what a, incoming prosecutor.
it says this employee would start at, so the new employee would start at that. So
And Beth is actually been here for 2 years, so her rate of pay is closer to 67,000 and some change.
okay, that's still, I mean, 67.
And then when you add on benefits to that, it's closer to about 82, I think. I didn't bring that documentation with me.
I mean, you're talking $30 more, we'll just say a pay period, $60 a pay period.
Right, so I think that equates to about $37 an hour is what she gets paid right now. So I don't know any attorney who.
I got 32.
$32 an hour.
Well, and that was just round 37,000. I didn't, it was more than, 37.5, I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, I guess my question is, why would you give a full-time person, I mean, a part-time person, full-time pay?
Because I don't know any attorney who will do any of this job for under $100 an hour. And this is far, far less than $100 an hour. Or even $150 an hour. So it's quite the bargain. And while we still have the money to pay for it, and it's not being allocated anywhere else, it will just sit there. And meanwhile, all the other cases in the county will take a back seat while we're trying to overcome and work with 2 prosecutors instead of 3 for what may be an indefinite amount of time. I really have no good outlook on being able to find anyone to fill this position. But we have to try. And so I'll have to put additional efforts into any type of recruitment that I possibly can, which will further take time away from court and the cases.
So you're saying, well, you have the money. Do you mean for the rest of this year or also next year?
Well, the money I would hope would still be allocated next year because we will still have that 3rd prosecutor position. As you read in the letters of recommendation from Judge Black as well as Rick Steiger, there's no way to function as a prosecutor's office with just 2 prosecutors there. So I am planning on a 3rd prosecutor position being funded for next year. And if we haven't found that full-time replacement by January 1, then we would still have that amount in there.
We do have a hiring freeze on right now. Being we don't know where the budget's gonna be at, if we could wait possible till next year. I don't know.
Money's gonna be there. His money's budgeted for that position through the year.
Well, and I don't have a problem with the money that's budgeted, but I
Right.
guess my bigger concern is the fact that we're gonna pay her a full-time pay in effect for basically part-time work. And again, if it was I didn't see anything in here other than the thing that says part-time. Wrong one, part-time, temporary employee. She'll arrange her hours of work to assure that necessarily assigned functions. So, I mean, are we guaranteed 20 hours a week or is it up to 40 hours a week? How do we know where that
Well-
hours gonna be?
I mean, I don't want to put, as I've learned over the years in drafting up a contract for a contractual position, it's very important that I don't step on too many toes. Otherwise, they end up becoming designated or under the same conditions as an actual county employee and thus would have to have different different terms and conditions that come along with that. So in my attempt to continue to try to make it a contractual employee, much like if you had contracted someone to paint this room, you wouldn't mandate that they do it in 5 or 10 hours, but as the amount allows. So I had left that blank, if it would appease the commissioners to put a 20 hours in there, I can do that, but that may then change the intention of the entire contract that she would never work above 20 hours. And like I said, with the particular cases that she has, sometimes they blow up at the last minute and many, many more hours are thrown in at the last minute before trial. And I wouldn't want her to have to take some hours away from 1 week in order to pour in more hours the next week. If she does go to trial and it's a 3-day jury trial, she's going to be here more than 20 hours a week to begin with. And those are all expectations that we would have of her as a contract employee. So that's why not having those particular set hours in there would benefit us in the long run, as we wouldn't necessarily run out of hours, so to speak, in the same pay period. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. I mean, you could put at least a minimum, you know, if the contract is going to be, you're expecting at least 20 hours, but no more than 40, you could have put that in there. But again, I guess my biggest concern is that we're going to pay her, because if I do the job too for $2,500, if I only had to do 20 hours, because she's already been doing it full-time, 40 hours, probably 40 hours plus, and going to make basically, in a sense, the same amount for
Well, I know
a position.
she relies very heavily on the benefits that she has right now. I know she takes the county insurance. I believe she takes a vision insurance, if I'm not mistaken. Well, as I would suspect dental, since she has no other coverage at this time, which she will be losing out on all of that. So I know that county has worked very hard to come up with a good insurance plan. And I know that is oftentimes reasons why people do stick around, as I've heard so specifically. So I wouldn't discount everything that she is giving up in order to still continue to do what I consider to be a favor for our office at the same or less of a price.
How many hours do you consider part-time?
I would say 20 hours.
So if we go at 20 hours, that would be 2,000 a week, be 4,000 a month. Times 12 is $48,000.
I'm sorry, one more?
Unless my math is off.
No, I wasn't going.
Okay, at $100 per hour, and you said that's what they would expect.
Anybody, well, I had spoken with some other people and they wouldn't expect anything less than $100.
So if you go $100 an hour, it'd be 40 hours a month. That would be $4,000.
Well, no, it won't be 40 hours a month. It'd be
Well, 20 and 20 is 40.
20 hours a week.
20 a week.
Oh.
You have to double all of that.
Oh, that's right. That's where I screwed up.
That's okay. Our pay
I was screwing up. I was doing good. That's right.
pay periods.
I'm sorry. That would be 40. Okay.
And I always do it 52 hours a week, because if they didn't work a particular week, obviously, they'd have to make up for it in other places.
Okay.
So how did you determine the 2,500?
I think I did the math roughly a little over $50 an hour at 20 hours. And rounded it one way or the other, just to make sure that we were having a conservative number that would not be exceeded. That was the key point. But even if additional hours were worked, that this would never be a dollar amount that was exceeded.
Well, it's $50, that'd be at $50 an hour times, or I'm sorry, $50 an hour
Times 20
times 20
or times 40.
is 1,000 a week.
Yeah, so I guess what I did do was right.
And then
4,000 a
when
month.
you said the 100, when she said the 100, you might have been doing that.
Right, but if you go to 50, I had 100, it'd be 4,000 a month at 50.
Half.
So it'd be 48,000 a year
Well, hopefully it's not a year.
with no benefits.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a year.
And
Basically, it's less than, it's $50 an hour, a little over $50 an hour to have an attorney on staff. Part-time for 20 hours. If she goes 30 hours, it comes down, the price goes down. I mean, she's getting the same amount of money. Where she works, unless she gets paid, basically. Right, Cynthia? Basically,
Well, the contract would be for $2,500 every,
yeah.
so it
That's
wouldn't be.
1250, that'd be 1250 a week.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's only $50 an hour, 55 or some $56 an hour. I mean, if she works 30 hours,
It's still gonna be
it's still gonna be the
50.
1250 a week.
Well, but I guess that's my concern because there is no guarantee, or there is nothing in here that says there's an expectation she's going to do part-time. So we don't even have the expectation of what the, at least the minimum amount of hours are. And, you know, not to exceed, we don't even have that. So is it, are you expecting 20 hours? Because to me, if we don't have what the expectation is there, she could work 10 hours. And say that, like you said, if I knew that this room needed to be painted, you're not going to tell me how long, if I'm a painter, I'm going to know how long it's going to take me. And I'm going to do this the quickest way possible. I'm not going to get the roller and paintbrush out. I'm going to get the sprayer and spray it as quickly as possible. If we don't have that expectation of what the minimum amount is, part-time isn't defined. I guess you could say part-time, we could agree that part-time is 20 hours, but if we don't define it, there is no expectation that a minimum of 20 hours. So I don't know how we can expect her to do anything that's not defined in the contract
Well,
and to still get paid the 2,500.
And this is not set in stone, so I can go back and talk up to her about various different aspects, of course, but I don't think you're understanding the gravity of the particular cases or the assignments as it indicates in there as assigned. That with those particular types of cases, she'll still come to the office as needed. She'll still appear in court as needed. Sometimes that can take 20 hours in and of itself. But also doing the corresponding with the police officers on what she needs on the various cases coming in and visits in the office with the victims themselves. I mean, I just don't see how any of this would take less than 20 hours. I think she'll already be having to cut corners or slim some things. I will be picking up the slack for her for things that do not get covered under those 20 hours. So will Ms. Ward. We'll all have to pick up some things that she will not be able to accomplish throughout her time. It's those particular tasks as assigned that will take at least the 20 hours a week.
I think the only thing you have to do in this is put a minimum 20 hours on this contract thing. And that covers that.
With that comes having to punch in and out, which.
Oh, I mean, that's your department head. You know, you should be able to control that.
Okay, I just want to make
Yeah,
sure that
I
we
mean-
follow all the guidelines and we don't create additional.
No,
Or,
I mean, you can control that, but I think yourself as a department head, you know, if you don't see her for 5 days,
right.
so.
So then the other thing on this one is because there is no, we said, if we need to terminate her, if you find someone 2 weeks. But if we're into next March, she's going to continue to do this with the 2,500. And again, I think as a part-time person, I would probably do that too.
Well, if,
I would have the credentials.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, Commissioner,
That's okay.
but the reason why Ms. Reed needs to terminate her employment is because the caseload that she has specifically is very straining. It is very emotionally draining, and she is trying to get out of the business. So she is not looking at this as some way to pad her wallet while she, does other things. She is doing this strictly for our help because she knows how much strain that will put on the two who are left over and how we simply won't be able to keep up with everything as, we should. As you saw in the letters also from Judge Black and Mr. Steiger, court will have to slow down if we don't have someone there each and every day to do the court process. And there's 3 courts going on sometimes. So with only 2 people, court has to stop. They can't go forward with the case without the prosecutor there. So Ms. Reed is looking to get out of this line of work. She's, again, not thinking this is going to be a long-term thing or something she will ask for more money for later on. She's simply doing this so that way we can bridge some sort of gap as long as we can. I honestly don't know if she will stay on for 18 or 24 months like this. And I don't know if I'll find a replacement in that time, but at least, with this particular contract, she'll be able to give us a heads up as to any more additional work. If she's looking to terminate the contract at any time, Ms. Ward and I will have to renegotiate what Ms. Ward and I do in the office to split up the demands. Does that help with that?
Yes and no. I mean, again, I think because and I get the issue with trying to find an attorney. And obviously, because I got my notes here, I put something, obviously with the prosecuting or the public defender's office, with Michigan, with the state of Michigan providing all that money to be able to go towards MIDC, it's kind of put a lopsided, burden on the county, the prosecuting attorney's office to be able to pick that up. I get it that they've got, they can pay more money to their attorneys. I know we've been down that road before, but I guess my concern is that how long will this go on? We're going to pay her $2,500. Are you going to get everything that we need to be done? Because there is no, part-time isn't defined. We assume we know what part-time is, but we can't assume when we're doing a contract what that is. And if you're saying that she wants to get out of, so she's not going to practice law anymore, or she just thinking she's going to do a different direction with practicing law?
Basically gonna hang up a shingle at her house and do as much or as little work as she wants, but she'll be able to make her living that way. And she, like I said, is just doing this as a favor to us. And even just to put a little note in for the public defender's office, I believe they've had one, if not two positions remaining open for several months now with almost zero applicants, even at their rate of pay.
So how do we fix this? Because again, the county can't fix it because, I guess we could fix it, but, we can't afford to fix it, especially when we're in a position that we're in. So how do we fix this moving forward? The states, like I said, to put the burden back on the county in a sense, because we're getting all this money for the public defender's office for MIDC, which, and again, if they've got an open position, is it because of where we live? I would assume that's part of it, but I think there'd be another aspect of that would be a good thing to be able to live in a small community like this. So how do we fix that?
I don't know. I've also heard that applications to law schools themselves have been down. So I think it's almost similar to what law enforcement had gone through over the last couple of years, where there's just not interested people to do the, hard work of being an attorney, of being in law enforcement, or, what the rate of pay is. So I don't know the long-term answer. I know that we've been, struggling and talking about this particular issue for many years, as long as MIDC has been, in even the planning stages. But again, yeah, it's very difficult to see that they also have openings that they cannot fill.
Well, it sounds like she'd be happier with the less hours because she plans on getting out of it anyway.
Absolutely, yeah, like I said.
So if she just takes
favor.
20 hours a week, she'd be happy if she wants out. And
I would just add in there just a minimum of 20 hours into that contract and it's only a small thing to add there. And again, the department has, and Cynthia controls that. We're not going to sit here, the personnel can
Right.
monitor her hours. That's Cynthia's job, so.
John, what do you want, 20 hours?
And yeah, I think there needs to be something added in here because again, when we
Right.
say part-time, we can assume what we assume, but I think it should be at least in this contract.
Yeah.
That's why I changed my motion to add to 20 hours minimum for part-time.
Right.
Do we, because there is, like you said, this is not like other contracts. I was looking at another contract that we had. It starts beginning of this period and ends here. So this is just gonna be an open-ended thing or?
Right, both parties have the ability to terminate the contract given at least 2 weeks' notice. I think that's in the final paragraph of the
Yep.
contract. And right, because if we extended it to a particular period of time, then that would mean that she would. Yeah, I mean, we'd have to just come back and talk about it at that time. But the only reason we need to continue it is if that position was not filled and was still in agreement to do so.
Well, I agree with Bill on the 20 hours, add it 20 hours.
Okay, I don't foresee that being a problem. I can, if it's approved, I can, put that in the draft, sending it.
So did you want to make a?
I just amended my motion to put 20 hours in that, you know.
Need a support?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes,
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And you'll change that, but on
I will. Do these need to be approved at full board or is this?
Yeah.
that ask on full boards.
and well, you'll have it at finance full board.
Well, this
Yeah.
doesn't matter because
Yeah.
this is already, this contract would be 1 October. And your other thing is she's already in place. So
Right.
you're not gonna hire anybody in the next 2 weeks.
No, oh goodness, no, I just wanted to know what
So it would go to full board.
was next, so I
Yeah.
will have,
Which is next week.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, that's finance.
and I'll have a new draft to the office, by the end of the day today,
Okay,
so that can be.
thank you. Okay, Jennifer Mathis, HR. Sick pay leave.
So recently, the Michigan Supreme Court has reinstated the Michigan's original voter initiated Earned Sick Time Act. The changes are effective February 21st, 2025. And the most notable changes is that we will have to provide 72 hours of paid sick time per year. I originally thought that we may have been excluded from this, but it says with the wording right now, county, state, and local government employees are entitled to the paid sick leave.
I know it's gonna affect me.
Mhm. It's gonna affect you, Bill.
Yeah, everybody that's got an employee is gonna affect.
Anyone with more than 10 employees.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it.
That's like, literally, that's something, I seen something in there. Building, they were talking about it. But lame duck, you know, and they're writing, there was some bills. You know. Coming out, but it's lame duck, they're not gonna do much. What do we do for like a sick time now,
We don't have sick pay. All we have is PTO.
PTO?
Oh, this is something we have to add.
So did we base our PTO, like, was that kind of built into PTO with the expectation that if you get sick or? I guess my question, are we giving more PTO than the norm? Like other businesses and like other counties?
I think it's pretty comparable to other counties. I could do a survey and reach out to the other local counties and find out what they're doing exactly and get back to you guys.
Because if we're gonna give, because I know how sick leave is, I stubbed my finger or whatever, now I'm gonna call in sick. Most people aren't gonna abuse it, but we're gonna have people that, and I know other places that I've worked where, as they built up their sick, they used it or whatever, doctor's appointments, if I'm not feeling good, hungover from the Super Bowl, whatever it is. And 72 hours is quite a bit, like you said earlier, 9 days. So we're gonna give them 9 additional days per year. And that doesn't carry over, correct?
I guess we would have to write a sick leave policy and decide how we want to do that.
Because I'd be concerned, well, I know where I've worked in the past too, is my sick leave built up, but once I left, I couldn't take it with me. Or get paid out on.
I think that would be, like Jennifer said, in your policy, whether you want it to roll over or not, because it sounds like this legislation is just saying you must provide at least 72 hours a year. And it doesn't say that you provide more than that or carry it over or anything.
Yeah, this says carry,
It says up to 72 hours must roll over.
yeah,
Like at the beginning of the year, you get your 72 hours. And if you don't use it at the beginning of the next year, you still have 72 hours. But you don't have like 3 hours left over and now you have
75.
75 at the beginning of the year. You just go back to 72 at the beginning of every year is what I meant. As opposed to our paid PTO, if you have 100 hours left, or I'm sorry, whatever you can carry over, that's added on to what you earn that next year. Would that, because we essentially do give them at least 72 hours per year for time off. Would that count? I mean, because we are actually, would just have to rename it sick leave or something? Because you do give them at least 72 hours. I mean, everybody gets at least 72 hours of time off. I guess you would have to, like in your policy, decide how to differentiate personal time and sick time. Like if someone's going on vacation, obviously that wouldn't be sick time, but a lot of people take PTO just for sick time. So you'd have to write your policy according to that.
It's like Jennifer's gonna be busy right now.
she has until February.
Yeah,
May I say something? Because I was here when we had sick time and vacation time. And I believe it was in the 2000s when Jim Peltier was here that we put the two together to create the PTO, just to call it paid time off, so that you could use it as sick or vacation. So we had an accounted amount of sick time and vacation and they just blended it. So I don't know if you went back and looked at what we had then when they were put together as one, if that would help show that we probably do already get that amount of sick time and then we get vacation and it goes into.
Well, that's
all one thing.
kind of why I was asking that,
Yeah.
because if we're paying, say, the average person should get, I don't know, 1 week off a year when they first start, and then you get whatever, an additional 5 days of sick or however that works out. There's a calculation. Because again, in my other jobs, when I was working, I got like 6 hours per pay period, 6.5 hours per pay period, and then 4 hours constant that I always got for sick. And again, that would always accumulate and build up, but you wouldn't get it paid out if you didn't use it. So I guess, like Andy just said, that I'd like to know, what were we doing? What have we done in the past? If we had at some point, a designated amount of time that we were calling sick time and then vacation time, and then we just combine those two, we could probably try to figure that out. Or you could call other places and see, but then they may have done the same thing as well. Combine their sick and personal at some point.
Okay, I'll look into this and then we can bring it back for discussion next time.
So we're going to just leave Jennifer back, step it over and bring back. So we're gonna, on this paid time sick leave, we're gonna table it till Jennifer comes back with us.
She'll get more information.
Okay. Okay, that ends that. Other discussion. Nothing? Okay. Employee separations.
We had one part-time corrections officer resign. He was here a short time. He was going back to school. And then we had one employee in the prosecutor's office resign. It was a grant funded position and it was ending here shortly.
So question for Cynthia, on that position, what do you do moving forward with however you work in that position?
Parts of the office absorbs the load.
Do you know why was it the state that funded that?
Yes, so it was part of the crime victim rights funding that we received. We had to apply for a grant, and if we included other counties in the grant, then we were more likely to have that particular position. So we were covering 4 counties. And what that person would do was get the applications for crime victim compensation. So they would process all of those, because what the state had been learning is that individuals on their own as victims were not able to compile the right documentation and fill out the applications to the satisfaction of the committee, and thus be awarded the money. So they put specialized individuals across the state to do that job and hold their hand in the application process and actually file the application for them. So it's a 3-year pilot program, and we had Will Rings in the position at first, and then Brianna Peck. And as we move forward, they decided as the state to do away with all the individual satellite offices, I'll just say, because they were geographically, spread out. And they're consolidating all that work into just 3 positions across the whole state. So there was about 8 to 10 positions across the state that they consolidated to 3 people. So at the end of the pilot program, it would have ended at the end of this month anyways. They just were not filling that, and thus our office will go back to having the individuals fill out the applications and hoping for the best, or if our advocates right now have time to sit down and help them with that, of course they'll do that.
Okay.
Again, it's another service that the office will not,
Okay. Next meeting is October 1st, 12 o'clock, Howard Mill Conference Room. Adjournment.
Motion adjourned.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting's closed. Thank you.